Noah, hello everyone. My name is Jasha Lyons-Echohawk, and I am the Census Community Builder with Together Oklahoma and Oklahoma Policy Institute. And we have a very special event for you tonight in honor of Juneteenth, and in collaboration with our Get Out the Count census work, we're going to have an amazing panel, two panels, and artist by the name of Jabee. Some of you might know him. I feel like a bunch of you will. Thank you for joining us again. For those of you who are new, thank you for joining us. We are doing these virtual census events to educate and entertain the community, as many of us have been deeply impacted by the viral pandemic. Some of us are still sheltering in place. Some of us haven't been able to. And at Oklahoma Policy Institute, we have been doing our best to make sure we reach community as far and wide as possible in this virtual realm, in advocacy of equitable policy. Basically, we need all of you here to lift up and identify when policy is unfair, and move it as we need to in the legislative process. So again, my name is Jasha Lyons-Echohawk. I'm just briefly on tonight. I have some amazing colleagues here, and Maria Monday, who are going to be facilitating the majority of the event. But I do want to just kind of ground our event in just what's going on in the world, not just the viral pandemic, but we've had a lot of movement going on when it comes to racial inequity, racism. And so I understand as we put on this event, this for some of us, it's not in vain and it's not light. We were very intentional and deep in thought in how we were to present tonight. And so just appreciate all of you have been out raising your voices in the ways that you need to. And so thank you, right there with you. As far as our event goes, we're going to have our performance throughout the event in between the panels, and Jabee and Demaria will both be leading these panels. But we do have an opportunity for a giveaway for those of you who have tuned in tonight. And so make sure you comment and share out this event, and you will be that'll be an entry into this giveaway. We're going to draw 3 names at random and award a $25 gift card to you. So again, make sure to share out, because this is all about the information that needs to be out there regarding the census, and also to celebrate and spread out the message of Juneteenth. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guests. First off, Jabee is an award-winning rapper from Oklahoma City whose music, according to Chuck D from Public Enemy, has the potential to change the world. He's toured with Run the Jewels and Murs, and he's been featured on Sway in the Morning, MTV, XXL, Complex, The Source, and Vibe. He has also performed at Kevin Durant's celebrity basketball game and Russell Westbrook's celebrity comedy show. And I know I've seen him a handful of times performing at the halftime shows for the Thunder. Our next guest is Jabee Crowley, who is the Southwest Oklahoma field organizer for Together Oklahoma. Jabee is a Lawton native and a graduate of Eisenhower High School, and his roots in Southwest Oklahoma communities run deep. He attended Southeastern Oklahoma State University and was the youngest person in state history to advance to a general election when he ran for state senate at the age of 25. Jabee is also a host for a local radio talk show called The Revolution, where he is able to connect and educate the community on various issues. And our final special guest is a former colleague of ours and just a colleague all around in this work, Maria Monday. She is the visionary behind Block Bulderz. Oh my goodness, I pulled up the wrong notes. I'm so sorry. She is also a Creek citizen, mother, and a recent graduate of Oklahoma State University with a bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship and a minor in marketing and management. She has a strong history of educating and engaging her community around state policy issues, and has been critical in passing I'm so sorry, Demaria, I can't remember the House bill, but the anti-shackling bill I believe it was a dignity-related bill for those incarcerated people who are giving birth while incarcerated. So I'm very, very honored to be in the presence of all these folks. Some of them I have known for a long time, and friends, as well as colleagues. I'll leave it up to, we'll start in order of introduction, Jabee, then Jacoby, then Demaria. If you all would just make some remarks regarding maybe a little elaboration on who you are and what brings you to census work and the celebration of Juneteenth. Jabee.
Oh, I mean, Juneteenth is very important. I'm happy to be able to perform, and happy that we're acknowledging Juneteenth, and to connect it with the census. I think is important because we want to make sure that our the people in our current community are accounted for.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jacoby.
What's up, everybody? I'm just excited about having this event right here. I think it's a great opportunity for Together Oklahoma, as well as towards the state of Oklahoma, to come together in this situation that we're in today. I think it's even more important to focus on the census and collaboration and connection with the Black community and other minority communities throughout our particular state that can have the potential to become uncounted. And I think it's also even more important to focus and talk about Juneteenth and the history of Juneteenth, as well as the connection within the Black community and how we hold this particular holiday for us value towards our heart. So I'm excited about what we're about to do. Again, thanks, Jaisha, for doing all the work. You're awesome.
Demaria.
Okay. Hey, everybody. So I'm excited about Juneteenth. To me, it's a symbolic victory of freedom in our country, because it's almost 400 years later and we're still not free. I'm a freedom fighter, and I became a freedom fighter because I am formerly incarcerated. And so therefore I know the systemic, the factors that oppress marginalized communities. And so therefore I fight for freedom and use my voice for change. And like Jaisha was saying, that one of the things that I did was we got a bill passed, HB 3393. I took it to Representative Regina Goodwin and told her the story about how women were being treated like animals and being stripped of their dignity. And so because of that, then we went on to draft a bill. I did a lot of the legislation. I mean, I did the research and also the organizing. That's when I really learned what grassroots organizing was. And so with that, I'm just thankful that God has used my story to be the change that I want to see and transform justice. Because even today, in these times when there's a distraction of trying to, this is not a reality show. History is real. We've got to know where we've been to know where we're going. And so therefore, I'm not going to let people distract us and say that it's a spectacle. It's about so much more, and we can't be asleep to why it's important that we get counted. We've got to know what the distractions are, and it's criminal justice reform. It's about real, meaningful change, and that's what Block Builders is. We directly impacted people being the leaders of change, leaders of the light. Thank you.
Thank you. So as we roll on, we do have a special offering from Sister Monday Speaks. She's ready. And then we'll kick it over with a trivia question before we start JB's performance. So Sister Monday, would you please kick us off?
Gladly. Thank the Lord above, I was sent to unshackle a mother's love. HB 33, first legislative victory. 400 years later, and we're still not free. I stand inspired by my ancestors' blood, pumping through my body, telling me we are somebody. Even my people's blood is spattered in the streets. and we're screaming, I can't breathe. It's our choice to use our voices to say, and then we will keep fighting for freedom. Justice, it's not just us screaming for justice. We are the change we want to see. We can be the leaders of the light, young revolutionaries leading the evolution, because it's time for a new solution. It's time to get counted. Census 2020, get counted.
Thank you so much.
It's just a little
Maria,
something.
Sister
Just a little
Monet.
something.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I will, again, we are having a gift card giveaway to 3 people at random, as long as you comment or share this event. And you can even answer the couple of trivia questions we'll have tonight. And so the first trivia question is, what does Juneteenth celebrate? Some of you may already know, some of you may not know. Hopefully after this event, you'll be thoroughly informed. And so yeah, post in the comments your answer, post in the comments where you're coming from, what city, quadrant, county you represent, or share out the event. So Jabee, if you're ready, we're anxiously waiting. Maybe I should call him. I hear him now.
I mean, you can make noise, it's just not. Yeah, I'm not turning the music up.
Thank you.
Check. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. This is a new song. I just released a video a week ago. It's called Click. Yeah. That cop gon' empty his clip until it click. He gon' ride, I'm gon' die for his click. Just put gas in my car until it click. I'ma keep telling y'all until it click. Cotton gin, drink your fingers of the flavor. Bottle soda, you buy your suit, it's Taylor. Family fortune, your grandparents was enslavers. Now your rent's too high for us to pay it. Your rent's high, the weed's legalized. Locking up the brown folks, security maximized. Becky sell weed, she just trying to feed the kids. But my sister do it, she gon' have to do it big. Gentrifying hoods, and we the target. I can't erase what Malcolm X was to Harlem. I can't erase what Clara Lupa is to me. Using Ellis's name to mark the streets. That cop gon' empty his clip until it click. He gon' ride, I'm gon' die for his click. Just put gas in my car until it click. I'ma keep telling y'all until it clicks. He gon' empty his clip until it clicks. He gon' ride, I'm gon' die for his click. Just put gas in my car until it click. I'ma keep on telling y'all until it click. I never understood how you don't see color. That means you don't see oppression we was under. I raised my kids to know that they black. Hope they understand and avoid these traps, yeah. East side, just trying to find the vibe. Remember days I was trying to find a job. Everything we got compared to everything we not. Not settling, but settled in and weathering the shots. Motivated by everything that I'm not. I'm so impatient with everything that I got. My only gift is everything that I'm not. We wrote the song, picking cotton in the sun, yeah. Trading wits and bed sheets for guns. Made a grip trying to reinvest in funds. Cops still killing people where I'm from. My people still kill my people where I'm from. That cop gon' empty his clip until it click. He gon' ride, I'm gon' die for his click. Just put gas in my car until it click. I'ma keep telling y'all until it click. He gon' empty his clip until it click. He gon' ride, I'm gon' die for his click. Just put gas in my car until it click. I'ma keep telling y'all until it clicks. DJ Reaper, y'all. Oh, this is a new one. Let's see if I know it. Yeah. Yeah. Praying his daddy, yo, was so religious. Got a price on my head that raised the cost of living. I'm probably exaggerating what I'm going through. Losing sleep, the Holy Spirit is controlling you. East side, get the money, let my people eat. Mind your business, busy watching me. I used to hear fashion hopping Krispy Kreme. I used to wear a crease in my Dickie jeans. Black man, red state, I'm a starving artist. From America's heartland where they so heartless. What's poppin'? I've got the city watching. You can lose it, you can lose. Those are your options. Trying to make it happen, but I can't force it. Pick up to Nazario for the family portrait. I do it on my own, I guess I'm better for it. I really in my zone, I guess I can't ignore it. They rapping about forest cause it's saying foreign. I'm sick of the fake love and the fake supporting. Off the top, I'm the answer, so why the questions? Been on my lessons since my adolescence, acting blessings. Mine's a heavy weapon, so I'm never stressing. Don't need a connection, don't mean I ain't connected. If you ever see me, then you got connections. If you ever need me, bro, it's no question. Gotta make it happen, reevaluate it. They still ain't put the store, my hood is still waiting. Bad attitudes and rap views, I don't do it. If you don't pursue truth, then I don't pursue it. Yeah, and I won't pursue it. I'm trying to make the music. I came for action. That was my first time rapping. That song for people. The raps don't equal. And the mind can't connect. Let my heart project, but yeah. 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 Look. Cops said, put your hands in the air. The pastor praying, put your hands in the air. They robber walked in, hands in the air. I love the image of Happy Buddha with his hands in the air, hands up. They killed Isaiah, I was there to pick it for him. We all died one day, the cops had to pick his for him. 12 wanna talk, I told him pick the forum. I can't pick it for him. My girl said pick reform. These false prophets living with false doctors. I ain't have a pot to piss, we was pissed, poke, rich, yeah. I only talk at how I live it, how it's bragging if I get it. You really can't see me, that's the hell that you live in. Like jail with every written verse, bar, and sentence. I don't try to be, I'm different. Everything you miss, I hope you find it soon. Your life feeling this, you trying to find the road. I get it, probably thought it was gonna be friendly, but money make the rail spin. Got them feeling dizzy. What? Cop said, put your hands in the air. The pastor praying, put your hands in the air. Bank robber walked in, hands in the air. I love the image of Happy Buddha with his hands in the air, hands up. Hands up. Hands up. Hands up. Yeah. Yeah. Also a new song. Yeah. Look, I reminiscing getting tipsy with my homies bumping Nipsey. Got people who really bang who identify with the 60s. Been a minute since she missed me. Love community and lift me. Do it for your people, watch it come back sincerely. Maneuver to the manure, I was moving, trying to fix me. Most of them ain't my people, they just people trying to end me. Just cause you speak your truth don't mean it ain't a lie to me. Play people out here living, but really they died to me, yeah. See, humble yourself to be exalted. In a tomb, in a coffin, blood bought, that's paid. If you live in it, it's costing. I ain't religious, I ain't conscious, I ain't condemned, I ain't common. Making something out of nothing, with no sign of stopping. Being Chucky, they taught me how to shoot dice. If you want to see how valid I write, shoot down your dreams and build up hopes. And living in my means I end up broke. Yeah. Live it. Live it up.
Live it, live it, live it, live it, live it up. Yeah, look, doing dirt advertising like it's cool. Don't say you understand the struggle you ain't been through. Getting jumped after school, racing home to get a tool. Legendary moves, leader of my crew. Heavy is the hand that wear the crown, yeah, that's true. Doing like them hustle, that's to wear some big shoes. That line spoke, I'm sure plenty can relate. Pour a little liquor for my people who passed away. Everything you want, you pray for it. I pray the reasons that I wanted are pure. So I'm trying to push that product off the scales. I'm trying to push that product off the shelves. Fragile and cruel, hoping that it sells. Most of the time, I can't hardly manage. My mind's always racing. I always seem to panic. I take a knee, I can't stand it. Kaepernick at disadvantage. Live it, live it, live it up. Live it up, live it up, live it up. Yeah. Live it, live it, live it up. Live it up, live it up, live it up. Yeah. Yeah. Look. Michael Jordan played with the flu. Apocalypse Now came out in 92. Melly Mel wrote the message. Jabee got arrested. At the right time, I got my kids trying to share mine. 24 hours trying to multiply. Tomorrow ain't promised, so subtract mine. Living in the skin, yo, it's so divine. The melanin within, how my soul designed. The real ones here. I'm a side, a real one shit. Money, power, money holder, money folder. More money in my pockets when I'm older. I used to dream of being rich. My homegirl never dreamed she'd be this sick. I can never be a mayor. I got a jail cell nature. An iPhone 10 to a Nextel page. You settling for less, or I'm giving you more. Giving in for dividends, the cinnamon's torn. Lord willing, see, we got plenty clips. I stay grounded to my deliverance. We don't adore you, they just backdoor you. Michael Jordan played with the flu. Apocalypse Now came out in 92. Melly Mel wrote the message. Chuck Berry got arrested. Michael Jordan played with the flu. Apocalypse Now came out in 92. Melly Mel wrote the message. Chuck Berry got arrested. Yeah. And the sky is gray. I went for a walk on a winter's day. Yeah. 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 All right. Dying to live, dying to fail, dying to kill. Living to die, so we dying for real. It's a cold world. Trying to calm the breeze. I pray Rob Kardashian get the help he need. Double life, double hoes, done with living. Never done a dang thing, don't forgive it. A damn done did it, never forget it. So forgiving, so religious, so relentless. You could have fooled me, could have fooled the world. Could have Nas, could have Curtis Blow, with a Jerry curl. We could have fought, could have talked. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, but we not. They never gonna be. Look, never said it N-word in a rap. The one the white supposed to say it back. I never call a woman. I never tell a lie. I never snitch. We supposed to be black and set trends. Don't let a rapper tell you how to live. Lie, devise the plan. Secure the bag. The demise of men. Baptized in the flyer. Supply the men. By supplying the man to enlighten the fans. Enlighten the fans to a higher advance. Why? It's a cold world. Trying to calm the breeze. I pray Rob Kardashian get the help he need. Yeah. Yeah. Thank God for DJ Reaper, yo. Thank God for my DJ Reaper coming through the speakers. Yeah. Making money ain't optional, and trying to get money is an obstacle. I used to think that millions was impossible. A lot of people got millions and they flossing them. Want me to think they banking from getting shows. Most of them are probably pimping or selling dope. See, living at her broke will make you sell your soul. The devil got a scroll and he take and roll. I seen jail once, I'm dodging street cops. My homie got knocked for his weed spot. I never seen Rick Ross inside a wing stop. But if I did, I'm probably rapping in that wing stop. We say praise God, thank God, God bless. We like, man, so who gonna say they God next? God body in the flesh, so we God less. 308B, ain't no God left. I still think peace can move a whole mountain. I seen a peace pool that moved the whole crowd. Now people getting gas, remember numbers. I toured 12 cities in Europe last summer. If you ever missed a meal, you know how I feel. I never rap about death or want somebody killed. Blacklisted by my homies cause I'm making moves. I know they drop my name just to make them cool. I don't care about your game or respect your rules. Money, how does money make a person lose? Money over them was a little rancid. I started dealing with them, so now I understand it. I don't care about much. Yeah, I care about my kids and that's enough. If somebody lies for you, they lie to you. Never lose sleep on how somebody do you. Now argue who's the best while we still debating. Your favorite rapper probably overrated. If it ain't proper Scarface, I won't play it. If you ain't got the brand, they won't play it. I stay independent. Don't trust labels. I only trust what puts food on my dinner table. You should always have a job if your body's able. Balance yourself, how you weigh your neighbor. It ain't much I'm impressed with. I always see my name on the guest list. Last week we had a wreck and we almost died. Didn't make it to Soundset, was the downside. Got a text from Sadiq to make sure I'm straight. Only pray next year I get a chance to play. They like, Jabee, we want some new music. I told them free Bam and buy Black Future. Got a text from Russell Westbrook the other day. He told me keep pushing, let these people hate. I guess my peers is noticing. So if I appear to notice them, I can pierce the hearts and dispose of them. Peering through your hearts when I open them. You ain't an OG, you just OG. I still quote scriptures like the old me. I'm still people fronting like they know me. Yeah, because they really don't know me. Yeah. Thank you. My name is Jabee. This is DJ Reaper. We will be back a little bit later. Do a couple more songs.
Aho, Mado, thank you, JB and DJ Reaper. So we just had our first performance with JB. As he said, he will be back later on in the program. We're going to go on to our first panel, but I do want to remind you all, we're here gathering in the celebration of Juneteenth, which actually is tomorrow, June 19th. This is a preview of the events to come throughout the weekend in various cities and communities across our state. We also are giving away 3 gift cards tonight. If you share out this event, if you comment where you're from, and if you can answer or just pose an answer to any of the questions we're asking tonight. Earlier, I had asked, what does Juneteenth celebrate? We have a second question. The first Juneteenth event occurred in which year? So as you are joining us tonight, you'll learn some of these answers, and I'll have some more questions throughout. So again, make sure you're commenting, sharing, and you'll be entered into a random drawing of 1 of 3 gift cards. So, excuse me, I think it's Jacoby with our first panel and our panel guest, if they're ready.
Hello.
Hey, hey.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm excited to learn more about Juneteenth.
Yes. So we have our first panel that's coming up. We have some educators and individuals that are familiar with Juneteenth history. So they're going to be on with us. If I can see, are they coming on? And we're going to be talking and discussing about Juneteenth history. So that,
Yeah, and Damaria's joining us, right?
yeah, I think Jamaria should be joining us as well.
Okay.
Hey,
I will pop off.
how's everybody doing? See you later, Jason. Again, hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Juneteenth history. We have our Juneteenth history panel, our experts, the Furious Ladies. They are all here and they all are knowledgeable in the areas that they're going to be talking about today. I'm going to go from my right all the way down to allow you to introduce yourself. We'll start with Miss Leslie.
There we go.
Muted, Miss Leslie.
Yes.
Yeah, you go.
Good evening. Just wanted to say hello and thank you for inviting me. And again, as a person from Tulsa, with our history, we definitely need to pass this on to our children so that everyone has an experience to understand exactly who and what we are. Contributors.
Thank you. Thank you. What about Miss Paula? How you doing, Miss Paula? How you doing, Miss Paula? Can you introduce yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Uh-oh. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you're good. We can hear you.
Okay.
Just
I'm
asking
Paula
you.
Bowen. I am oh, you can hear me great. Paula Bowen, I'm a former Lawton Public Schools teacher. I'm currently in grad school pursuing a master's of arts in American history with a concentration in antebellum South. Yes. So I think Juneteenth is important. People don't really understand what the holiday is about. No clue. So this is critical that we get the information out, especially since Twitter and Nike have declared that Juneteenth is a holiday for their company employees. It's sparked a lot of questions.
Yes, that's good.
So
thank you.
yes.
Thank you, Miss Bowen. We appreciate you for stepping on. And I got Mrs. Kim Jones. Miss Kim, what's up, Miss Kim? Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Kim Jones. I am from Lawton, Oklahoma, and I am a science teacher here in the Lawton Public School System. And I'm also an Black History advocate. If anyone knows me, you would think I was a Black History teacher before I was a science teacher, as much as I'd like to preach and teach about Black history. But I think that educating our children in this generation on Juneteenth is extremely important because if we don't teach them, they may not get that information. So we have to be sure that we're on the front lines, making sure our kids get all the information that they need.
All right. So we'll get right into, and I have also my co-host. Everyone knows the great Mrs. Monday. How you doing? I think you
Okay, there I am.
She's gonna be co-hosting for me today. Let's get into the questions real quick. So before we even get into any juicy questions, I first want to have just we have the experts here, and there's be some individuals that are watching that may have no clue. So we're gonna ask our first question is, what is Juneteenth? And I'm gonna ask Miss Kim Jones. Miss Kim Jones. Can you just elaborate on that? And then after she speaks, if anyone else wants to push any more towards that particular question, we'll go from there. So, Ms. Kim Jones, can you elaborate? What is Juneteenth?
Okay, Juneteenth is, of course, June 19th, and it is the day 1865, and it was the day that the individuals in Texas found out that they were free. And they found out from a military soldier, and they had no idea. And my thing, the communication breakdown why they didn't get this information, and the people who own them received 2.5 years of free labor. Did they pay them back? You know, you have to understand that if you don't know, if you are not given the right information, you can be cheated out of something. You could lose your integrity, you can lose your dignity. But I'm going to turn this over to, if I can, Mrs. Paula Bowen, because she is definitely the person who goes into the, you know, details of all of the historical events when it comes to Black history. So I'm going to turn my time over to her, and she can definitely give you more explanation about that.
Ms. Bowen. Ms. Bowen? We'll wait on Ms. Bowen. I think she's having some connection problems.
So in the meantime, my Leslie Whaley, she lives. I invited her to speak. Oh,
okay. So
is that Ms. Bowen?
Republicans, the President Abraham Lincoln. Shall I continue?
Yes.
Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, so the Emancipation Proclamation signed by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863, most people think that freed the slaves. Like Ms. Jones, wasn't because of the breakdown of communication, because they didn't have communication. Many slave owners knew that the slaves were going to be free. So they tried to move their slaves into Texas. This is something that I found in the history. It's not really taught, that they moved those slaves in order to avoid freeing them. And so like Ms. Jones said, they received free labor. Even after 1865, 6 months later, you still had people, African Americans, that were still enslaved into December of 1865. So past the 2-year period, there are some stories on some plantations that were very obscure, not relatively well known, that some slaves, they're saying in 1866, 1865, 1866, 1867. So even past that period, there were some of our ancestors and slaves that weren't free. We know that General Granger arrived with Union troops to free them, and so it is said that from some of my relatives from Texas, when I attended my first Juneteenth, that they broke out in celebration to hear that they had been free. So that's pretty much what I have to add to it. And then, of course, with the passage of the 13th Amendment that effectively ended slavery. And then you have what I call the Civil War amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that pertain to African Americans as a whole in this country. So 13th slaves, 14th gave us citizenship, and the 15th gave us the right to vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bowen, on that history lesson. Ms. Leslie, real quick, I'm going to let you elaborate on that. What is Juneteenth?
You're welcome.
Okay. In addition to what the previous ladies have stated, it's, you know, it is in the books that a lot of families did move to Texas, and Galveston was the furthest remote point. And initially, there were like 1,000 slaves initially in let's say 1862, 63. And by 1865, there were 250,000. So people knew exactly what they were doing. They were hedging their bet on free labor, on not getting the word out to everyone, because of course Texas is so large. So when people come to us and like to spout these, stereotypical things about lazy, so forth and so on. You have to politely entice them to understand over 350 plus years without payment for building this country. So yes, Texas was one of the most remote points. And how do you go from 1,000 to 250,000 within 2 years? They knew exactly what they were doing in trying to ensure that their labor source was sustained.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Now, let's get to our next question in general. I've talked to a lot of people. We live in Oklahoma. That's, I don't know if Miss Leslie, I don't know. You do live in Oklahoma or you live in Texas?
Oh, I was raised in Tulsa. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oklahoma all the way. So we have Oklahomans in here. So we understand, the demographics that we live in particular. So it doesn't come unknown for individuals to come to you and say, what is Juneteenth? So my question is just off of, starting within this panel, and we'll start with the question with Ms. Leslie. Do you think it's important for non-Blacks to learn the history of Juneteenth? And I will start with Ms. Leslie.
Okay, yes. You know what? I do. I don't think that American history does any type of justice the way it's being taught currently. We're left out. Our Native Americans are left out. The initial Chinese and anyone else brought to this country to build it, to create it. The only way our children are going to be able to walk forward and be in their truth is for them to know what our great ancestors did. So we need them to understand that this celebration created a positive reinforcement of being human, of having, the right to be to ourselves. Yes.
I'll push that question to Ms. Paula Bowen. Do you think it's important for non-Blacks to learn about the history of Juneteenth? I'll let Ms. Bowen.
Yes, I believe that it is critical. I believe it is critical that non-Blacks learn what Juneteenth is about. Juneteenth is just as important as giving, yes, if not more important. And in fact, 1979, Texas became the first state to make Juneteenth an official holiday. And I think that's something that we need to push for, is to make Juneteenth a national holiday. And that way, people have no choice but to learn what Juneteenth is. That would be my sincere hope. But as an educator, having been a teacher, you barely have people who will understand what Thanksgiving is about. So, it's an uphill battle to get the information out there. And I wanted to say that here in Oklahoma, in what was known as Indian Territory, we didn't really, well, I won't say we, but slaves in Oklahoma didn't get the word until 1866, because we did have slavery here. The Native Americans had slaves. In fact, one of my big research projects, the Van Plantation, had slaves, and there was a slave revolt, if you want to call it that, of 20 plus slaves that revolted going into Texas and into Mexico. So slavery was a part of Oklahoma history as well. So yes, I think it's critical, but as Leslie said, it's not taught correctly, if at all. Just like the Tulsa race riots, it's not really taught.
Why do you think it's
or Tulsa massacre?
Why do you think it's not taught?
Why? It's not taught because it's not viewed as important.
I think I want to add to that.
See, when you look at any textbook,
I just want to add to that point right there to Miss Paula about why it's not taught. I had the honor of interviewing the former state representative Don Ross, and he was the first journalist that even brought to light about the racial massacre. And so for 50 years, it wasn't talked about. And so that was my first question to him: is why was this not talked about? And so he said, because there was this fear that because it was the same people that were in the positions of power 9 to 5, that after 5, those are the ones who put on their white suits and their sheets, and they hid behind it, the mask, and that's who burned it down. So if you have the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who actually instilled the massacre, who do you run to for help? So then you're afraid that if you run for help, it's going to happen again. So for 50 years, our communities haven't wanted to even talk about it out of that fear. And then so that begins the historical trauma, because then each generation is broken a little bit more because you don't talk about it. And so it took all that time, and and even now it's almost 100 years later. But we'll talk about that later on in my part. I just wanted to add to that. Jacoby, I'll shoot it back to you.
If I could
you're
interject,
exactly right.
Yes,
interject
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
as well before we move on to Ms. Kim. Part of the dysfunction of this, what is a better word? Supremacy isn't accurate.
I would
right?
say, would you say capitalism?
Okay, capitalism,
Yeah,
right? Because it's always been about economics.
Mm-hmm.
What the history books have not ever wanted to address is the dysfunction and the brokenness of white society regarding all the things that they've done. You don't want Johnny and Susie to understand specifically that their greats and greater were sadistic, that they tortured people, that they went out, picked someone that they wanted, utilized, brutalized, and then went to church on Sunday. That history, that pathology, which is actually what it is what they don't want to open. And so I will digress. I will get off my soapbox. But what we often don't do is talk about their pathology to our Black and brown bodies. All right, I'm done. Sorry.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
That is a great question, and I'm going to bring you all in just a minute. Well, especially Mrs. Paula. One of the things I've learned as researching history and studying history, people want to paint themselves in a good light. So what they do is all the history books, the American traditional history books, they paint themselves like they're the heroes, and they're the ones who made this country, the great country that it is. But I go back to the soil. They always tell us to celebrate Christopher Columbus because he supposedly discovered America. But when you do your research, he never stepped foot in North America. He shipped here 4 times and he kept missing it. He sailed 1492. He sailed the big ocean blue, but he didn't reach North America. He didn't reach the East Coast. So how are you going to celebrate him? So all these years we were given this information and had to study these in the historical books. Well, you're going to celebrate someone who never stepped foot on this soil, but you won't celebrate someone who made the soil prosperous with cash crops such as tobacco, sugarcane, rice, cotton. So then that's what we're going to get into the speech about, making Juneteenth national holiday. How can you make Christopher Columbus a national holiday, but you can't make Juneteenth a national holiday for people who made this country rich and people who made this country prosperous? But the thing is, it's going to take us to begin to tell our own story, because if we depend on them to tell the story, it might not get told. Because, and I'm gonna give this to I'm gonna share you with the experience I just had. I just wrote a book called Wealthy Blacks Before 1865. I'm gonna have a copy here. Just kind of show y'all. Here it is.
Show 'em. Show 'em.
Wealthy books.
Show 'em.
Okay.
It talks about the blacks who were wealthy before Abraham Lincoln signed the proclamation. Well, I'm also creating lesson plans to go with this book. So being a teacher, I decided to go in and see what the history standards were for, for the traditional history books and for Oklahoma and for different states. Come to find out, they won't teach you the history, and Paula, correct me if I'm wrong, before 1865. They've taken it out. They've taken it out of traditional history books. They are not teaching slavery in traditional history books. Because I was trying to match up, you have to match up your lesson plan to what you're teaching. And when I tried to go in and match it up, I said, wait a minute, why aren't we getting the stuff before 1865? And I could not get it. And then a couple of days later, I was listening to D.L. Hughley. He said, they're not teaching slavery in American history. I said, I got it. He's telling the truth. So Miss Paula, can you kind of elaborate on that, since you were a history teacher, and you can share with us the things that you had to implement yourself opposed to what you've seen in the history books? Okay.
Ooh. Well, as you are well aware, that I created a Black history class because it wasn't being taught. And I went further back into Africa first to explain that we didn't come to these shores, we weren't slaves. First of all, we were kings and queens in Africa before we were brought here. So I had to clear that up and drive that home. And some of them still didn't believe it because all they've ever been told is that they were slaves. So look at this text, like a big controversy, because they wanted to take the word slavery out of the textbook and call them indentured servants. So when you look at this country, when you look at it, economics and power go hand in hand. I say this all the time, that economics is the great equalizer. And so when you're at Tulsa, what was the overall factor? And I put this as a Facebook question, and Jacoby answered it correctly, was that it was economics. And a lot of it was fear, Miss Monday, and it was jealousy. And so I dare these Black people have a piano. I dare this Black woman have a set of pearls. And so all these, and in fact, in reading some of the history of Tulsa, many of the white business owners had to go borrow from the Black business owners to keep their businesses in some cases. So you're looking at not just Tulsa, but there were many Black Wall Streets throughout the United States. So here we are, this group of people that are considered inferior, and like Kim wrote the book, we were inventors, and so yeah, I had a hard time with U.S. history. First of all, I had to correct the information in the book, and then try to teach it right in an outdated textbook at that. So I created the Black history class that we have now with Lawton Public Schools. And that was an uphill battle and a fight. As Kim and Jacoby are aware, a lot of people did not want to see that class prosper. And it's a story, and it's a book I'm going to write about, because the half has never been told of what I went through. And so, and continued to go through with trying to teach Black children about their history.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Bowen. I appreciate that.
Sad, very sad.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen. Now we got another question before we run out of time. Dealing with what's going on in the country today, we're gonna bring it to today now.
Wait, hold on, Jacoby.
Oh, you want some?
Before we go till today, can we talk a little bit? Because, I love history. So I had to be like, can we have a few more minutes, please? Because I love history.
Yeah, let's go.
As we talk about, something that we're not talking about also is that Oklahoma was the only, when the Civil War was going on, what's so significant about our state, what makes us so original, is that we was not a state. We was a territory. And so speaking of our ancestors, like I was raised in Texas, but I was born in Oklahoma. And so coming back to Oklahoma, I came back to my roots. And so something that I learned is that my people, the Mondays, were Creek freedmen. And so the Mondays and the Fridays were cousins. And so come to find out, it goes back that they were owned by the British. And then and so being owned by the British, then they migrated to Florida. And then from Florida, they came to Oklahoma. And so between that, I don't know if there was some type of exchange that went on between the slaves and the black people, and the Creeks. I don't know, because at times, because you have some tribes that are cruel, and you have other tribes that they exchange, like, hey, let's share economics and we'll protect one another. So coming to Oklahoma was that coming to with that hope. So in the Trail of Tears, it was, it's filled with desperation and, and sickness and all of that, but through all of that, but they were resilient enough to say the ones that survived, they came to Oklahoma and they built prosperous towns. Yeah. And in coming over here, we had that dream and that determination to succeed. And so with that, we was like, okay, we didn't ask for permission to dream. So then when you had the land rush and they came over and they saw us doing this, we didn't ask for permission to prosper. And it's like we didn't have permission. And so, all of that set place. And so now let's move on. I won't get on my soapbox, but I just had to add just a little bit.
I just wanted to add to that, Miss Monday. I'm a Choctaw Freeman. Our family is Choctaw Freeman. We're from Eastern Oklahoma. So our family came over on the Trail of Tears. I researched our history. So with the Seminoles, the Seminole Nation were the ones who adopted the Creek. So you're probably from Muskogee, around that area, normally where they had the Creek Native American, the Creek Freemans. But the Seminoles were the ones, they were treated the African Americans with fairness. They wanted them to prosper just like them. Like you said, different tribes treated them different ways, and a lot of people don't know that history, but different tribes treated the slaves differently, and the Seminoles treated them as human beings. I can say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank y'all. Look, y'all are a great panel. Look, see, this is knowledge going everywhere. It's just a fun, and we'll talk about it even more in the census once we get into the census panel, because I got a fun fact too that I want to share. But one thing I think is going to be important, I think it just, in this question, I'm just going to ask y'all just to make, just quick responses on this one. Dealing with what's going on in this country, do you think that this year's Juneteenth is important? Like, one thing I think just off of this year alone and what has been happening throughout this country, a lot of people, especially individuals that are non-Black, are running to the risk of they don't know. Like, they don't have no clue. They're in a whole totally different land, whole totally different place. So this is the type of time I think now moving forward is an educational moment, as well as a collaborational moment of bringing them into the into the particular door. You don't know, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna educate you, and then I'm gonna allow you to move forward on that. So dealing with what's going on in this country, do you think that this year, Juneteenth is one of the most important Juneteenths that we have ever had?
Yo, I know you have a whole list of panelists, but being right here in Tulsa, being in the trenches and on the ground, I've got to answer this. This year, now more than ever, is the time that we use our voices. It's time that we're not lulled to sleep by the antics. Because one thing, and dating with history, you've got to know your history to know where you're going. When they had the racial massacre, they had martial law that occurred back then. So if you come in with these conditions that are already simmering, and you light the flame, then you can reenact it. Mm-hmm. But if you know it, if you have the knowledge to it, then you can say, hey, let's transform the criminal justice system. Because when we talk about economics and equality, the economics has not been the same that Black Wall Street has never been truly revitalized. And so, you know, with that, there's been this disparity, and there's been these different policies put into place that have crippled the Black Wall Street, or even just the North community. So, you know, let's not be distracted. You know, freedom is about freedom from oppression. You know, a lot of times people don't want to talk about racism. And then I've even been called racist. And it's not about talking about race is not racism. Racism, you have to have the ability to oppress a different race or color, you know, and I don't have that ability. I don't have the economics to oppress anybody. So if I express my frustration about the inequality about race, then that's a different story. But I think now more than ever, it's important that we, you know, that we be the change we want to see. Don't be asleep. You know, what do we need? What do our communities need? And that's why it's our choice to use our voice to say, like, hey, it's time to be counted. That's one way to make sure that we have representation, but not be, you know, we don't want history to reenact itself. So,
hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for answering that. We have time, but I just want one answer from each and every one of y'all. Do you think Juneteenth should be a holiday? Yes or no? Starting Ms. Leslie.
Yes, 100%. You don't know what you don't know. Yes.
Ms. Paula. Ms. Paula.
Most definitely.
Okay,
Most definitely. I think it should be. Yes, I do. And I would like to say that if the ladies on this panel are interested, I think we need. Can you all hear me?
Now we can hear
Did you get my answer?
Now we can hear you. We can hear you. You said yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
I said yes, most definitely. I think that it should be a national holiday, and that if the ladies on this panel are me, I think we should get the ball rolling on making Juneteenth a national holiday.
Yeah. Ms. Kim Jones.
If we have to go to the White House, let's make that happen. Governor's Mansion, let's make that happen.
I'm down.
Okay, yes.
I'm down too.
Yes. If we can celebrate the 4th of July, which is the Independence Day, we should be able to celebrate Juneteenth, which is another Independence Day. But there was 2 Independence Day that occurred in America, 4th of July and Juneteenth. So if we can celebrate those, that's, you know, 4th of July, let's celebrate Juneteenth, because there's 2 different types of freedoms that we're talking about here.
Yes, yes. And I
If
think
I could
that is. Yeah, you got it, Ms. Leslie.
If I can interject really quickly, currently, of the states, there are only 3, and it's really weird: Hawaii, South, and North Dakota.
Yep.
Those are the only ones that don't have anything on the books for us. But we're represented in Congress, so yes, whatever it takes to make it happen, we should. Yes.
Yes, and I was just about to interject and say exactly that. You know, out of the 50 states, only 47 are actually active in practicing, and that doesn't mean every city does it. Doesn't mean that every county does it. Just majority of a lot of cities, they do it overall throughout the particular nation itself. But I want to thank y'all for being on. Look, I could be on all day, Miss Kim, no, Miss Paula, no. Hey, I just met you, Miss Leslie, but I thank you for coming on. You know, Damari, you already know what's up. Hey, I can be on for hours talking about our history, talking about, you know, what we need, what people need to know about Blacks in our Black community itself. Don't just use us, you know, as a poster, but you need to understand, you know, the struggles that we come through, and you need to sit down and listen. And I think that's the most important out of anything else. Don't talk, just listen. So I'm gonna turn it over to our host, Mrs. Jasha.
Have to remember to unmute myself. What an amazing panel. All of you spoke, like, I don't even think they're hard truths. Like, we just all need to know. and I am in support of Juneteenth as a holiday, as a national holiday, nationally recognized, in as it is, or in lieu of Columbus Day. And he didn't discover anything. You can't discover what's already there. So I will not go any further on that. Yes, again, thank you, Jacoby and Damaria, for hosting this wonderful panel. It's been an honor again to be here, pleasure to be here, and being introduced to amazing people. I would request that Miss Kim Jones provide us the title of her book, and we can post that in the comments. There were some people asking what the title of the book was. With that, we will go on to our next trivia question. And so this one kind of touches on the mixed history, as really all history in America is intertwined and mixed. What year were the Muskogee Creek slaves freed? Now, again, there are tribes who did own slaves, and honestly, that is why some of these tribes are called civilized, because they assimilated more to what some tribes did think to preserve their nations, to preserve their people, while slavery is not okay and there's no justification. But again, what year were the Muskogee Creek slaves freed? All right, please comment with your answer. And the first questions, what does Juneteenth celebrate? All of you who have been viewing should know by now. And what year was the first Juneteenth event? All right, if Damaria is ready to lead the second panel, and I believe Jacoby is also going to be a co-facilitator, and we will have, what can we do?
So let's talk about what can we do and why is the census important? Because a lot of times, what I hear was common in our community when I talk about the census, and they're like, why does it matter? So first of all, I want to break it down why the census matters, but why it matters, because it spans across generations. So we'll start off with infancy or with education. One of the things is when we get counted, when the children are counted, they determine how many free lunches are needed in the schools. And so, in addition to that, when our children are counted, that is determined how many schools we need in our district. So when we don't have our schools counted, then when we don't have our children counted, then our schools are shut down. So, I'm constantly fighting for them to keep different schools open. But if I can really, if I can get more people to get counted, then I can help ensure that we get our schools, that we keep our schools open. And that's how, that's another way to fight that. So, and so talking about, elementary school, but, if we don't have the schools, we need our schools. So then we can get our children on to college. So some of the census money goes to Title IV. And so for the different public universities, our education, well, Malcolm X, it's a quote from Malcolm X, and it says that education is the key to the future. And I truly believe that my education has been able to transform my life. That's one of the, it's helped me to gain a different understanding and a different perspective of history and also of the world. And so, speaking about our children, but, we also got to keep in mind that the baby boomers, that they're not our elderly population. And so many of our grandparents are elderly, and many of the baby boomers are elderly. So therefore, we need funding to provide resources for them. Whether it's prescriptions, whether it's doctor's visits, whether it's hospital stays, or even somebody coming in to look out for them. We need funding for our elderly. And most importantly, now more than ever, the census is what determines how many districts that we get for Congress. So in order for us to be able to say that I need representation on Capitol Hill, I've got to be counted. Because we really truly stand to be discounted. And it's not that we stand to be discounted. We've been discounted for far too long. So now more than ever, it's time that we get counted. Because we need somebody on Capitol Hill to say that these are the people that will not stand up, that they will not stand for injustice. These are the people that are going to keep on, that we need equality. You know, these are the people that say we need education for all. If we're going to build a resilient nation, everybody must be counted. And we need representation up on Capitol Hill. And I just truly believe that if more of my district, I don't have the exact numbers of I live in District 1, but I don't have the exact numbers. What I can tell you is that the district that I live in spans outside of Tulsa. It's Bartlesville. It's, you know, it goes all out there by Catoosa. And I live in far North Tulsa. And so with all of that, that shows how North Tulsans have not been counted. You know, we're a marginalized community because of the fact that we fear government intrusion. That we think that if the government intrudes, you know, if they know our business, if they know too much about us, then, you know, then there's going to be repercussions. So whether it's that we lose our housing, whether we, you know, whatever it may be, we're afraid of that government intrusion. But, you know, it's a violation for them to use that against us. Right. And I also, you know, while I'm talking about the census, because it's, you know, the Black community, we are, you know, North Tulsa is marginalized, but, you know, our allies, you know, is whether it's East Tulsa, you know, marginalized communities. Black people are not the only marginalized community. Right now we have our brown community, the Dreamers. I've got to take a moment to stop and celebrate victory. I know this is about Juneteenth, but I was so inspired. Yes, I was so inspired about the DREAM Act, the Supreme Court's ruling of the DREAM Act. You know, saying that they can't enact, you know, the Dreamers, that they still have protections. And it's in me having our allies in this fight for freedom that are Dreamers. It's important to me that they be able to stay and fight and also have opportunities, because some of them did come over here to build a better life, and they've been helping us to build a better society. And so when we talk about building a better society, it's a society that's inclusive of all, you know, making sure that even that the most marginalized and most disadvantaged people are counted, because, you know, that's how we lose out when we're not counted. So get counted. I'm gonna pass it on.
Get counted.
Yes,
I think
get counted.
It's the most important thing that you need to do this year, outside of voting. And if you're not registered to vote, make sure you register to vote.
Most importantly,
and make sure you fill out your census. All of those things are really important. Why? Because it is going to shape your future. It is going to shape your community's future for over 10 years. I'm telling you what I know. On the political side, you know, and when it talks about redistricting, we lost an actual congressional seat because everyone was not counted. We had roughly around 5 seats. Now we got 4 seats. And that is off of the basis of us not being counted. We have to look into, you know, we have to make sure, especially as a Black community or minority community in general, that each and every person is counted. I mean, here in the city of Lawton and throughout Southwest Oklahoma, we have seen deteriorated organizations off of the basis of poor funding. And when it has poor funding and those things are not provided towards a particular community, a community can lose an identity, a community can lose funding, or that organization can lose funding on those particular issues or those particular things that keeps that particular community or those particular people afloat. It is very important that you do. We did a trivia night a few weeks ago, and we talked about, you know, the importance of doing to make sure you're filling out the census, but also we talked about that what the census allows and what it doesn't allow. So a lot of people, especially with the Black folks that may be listening, just understand that, you know, when it comes and talks about the census itself, you have to understand that your information is not going to be shared. All right, you are safe. But make sure that you fill out in those particular census for your community. For me in general, I think it's important, especially for the Black community itself. I think it was even more important, you know, when it first started, and why it's still important to this day. I found out about my grandfather. I never met him in my life. My grandfather was roughly, you know, a little bit older, and he passed away 1 year when my mom was born. He passed away right after my mom was born, so I never got to meet him. But I always wanted to meet him, and heard a lot about him, heard a lot of stories. So I did a lot of research, and by the time I became, educated and understanding of where I need to look at, I looked him up. And guess where I got his information from? I got his information from Census. that's how I was able to understand where he came from. And it gave me a different sense of understanding. So make sure you fill out your census. I give it back to you, Ms. Damari.
Okay, so one of the things that I want to talk about that I didn't touch on was also people who are experiencing homelessness. It's, so many times that people who are experiencing homelessness are invisible, or they're looked down upon. Everybody goes through something at some point in their time in their life, and everybody, different valleys for different people. However, there's HUD dollars that are allocated to be able to provide housing for people experiencing homelessness or housing crisis. In Oklahoma, right? Well, not just Oklahoma, in Tulsa specifically, we're like I think the 11th in eviction rates. Like, we have a really astronomical number in eviction rates. And so that's what, as I'm the founder of Block Builders, as the founder of Block Builders, that's one of the things that we do is provide hope, most importantly. Because you can give out a meal to somebody that's experiencing homelessness. You can give them anything, but it doesn't really mean anything if it's not attached to something. And so it's going to, treating everybody like there's somebody. And that's how, with the census, that's most definitely how we can be able to say that this person is somebody. And so when we go, when we talk about, talking about somebody being somebody and the census capturing that data, I have a question for you, Jabee, based upon something what you said. You were saying that you all lost a Congress seat because everybody wasn't counted in the census. So tell me, when you lost that seat, did or any of those people, do they look like you? Do any of the congressmen look like you?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that was loud. No, they don't look like me.
Yes, and so moving on with that, from that, I want to talk about what's happening in New York about them getting redistricting. With was it Alexis Cortez? What is the O stand for? There's another part to her name.
I want to say.
I know it's Alexis Cortez, but when I tell you that it's phenomenal and it's very revolutionary that they use their voices to make sure that they got all of their district counted. So okay, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
Yes.
Thank you. And so, but they made sure that they used their voices to get counted. And when I tell you that she is a powerhouse at the Capitol, and that she's up there fighting for change. And so with that, I believe that we can have more people fighting for change for us that have our interests at heart. Because it's one thing to be, politicians are supposed to be servants of the people. They represent the people's best interests. However, in my experience of dealing with different politicians, I've often noticed, and you don't even have to have experience with dealing with them, because sometimes people think like, oh, politicians are this, and that, but we see it. We see the disconnect. We see how, the politicians don't always have the people's best interests at heart. And so with that, that's why it's so important to make sure that we get our people counted to say that we've got somebody up on Capitol Hill that looks like us, that can say, I've got your back and I can speak for you. Because when I tell you that I've learned the power of we, I've learned that when you say you and me, we form the power of we, that's how change happens, if we just believe. Because if we can believe it, we can receive it. And if we can, if we can just believe that the change is on the way, but we got to keep fighting for change, and we got to celebrate these moments of victory and saying that, that the fight continues, that we will not say that, we're not gonna be distracted from freedom. Because when it's at the end of the day, it's about making sure that our voices get counted, that we get registered to vote. Because you hear a lot of times you hear people complaining and saying like, oh, well, I don't, they have all these different complaints about politics, but they don't get voted. I mean, they don't get registered to vote. And so like, if you don't vote, how can you complain? And like, even with the young people right now, like I'm excited about the millennials, because the millennials are the next largest population besides the elderly population, besides the baby boomers. That, like, so these millennials are on the cusp of being like, hey, we can transform this world and reimagine it and make it a world that we want to see. We don't have to buy into all of the hatred and all of the antics of capitalism. We can dismantle the system and say that I want to reimagine a world that's better for you and for me and the people that we leave behind. And we can say that with that, we're going to plant seeds of hope. That we're going to believe that everybody matters. But most importantly, that our Black lives matter. It's not about, it's not about saying like only, that it's not about discounting anybody. Because at the end of the day, it's about the love for humanity. But if Black people were treated like humans, if we were treated with full citizenship, then we wouldn't be having to say Black Lives Matter. So now more than ever, we need allies to say that, hey, it's time that everybody, that everybody uses their voice. Get counted, get registered to vote, and also know that when somebody says, I can't breathe, that those are the words to spark change. To say that it's not okay. That it's not okay to just discount somebody's breath. Because we all bleed the same color. And at the end of the day, we want a better world. And a better world that loves everybody and treats everybody with justice and equality. Right. And that's why it's so important to make sure that we get counted.
Yeah, and you spoke on, voting. You spoke on, and also another thing I think is important too is educating ourselves. I think it's one of the most important things. A lot of people that are even, through this time, they say suppression or whatever that they've been going through, a lot of times it's often miseducation. And we just had a panel about the history aspects of it and how it was intentionally not taught, but I think it's also in a point that we have to intentionally teach ourselves the importance of voting, intentionally teach ourselves the importance of the census, intentionally teach ourselves the importance of following up with state questions that are important as well. Because when we do that, we put ourselves in a better situation of not just trying to listen to other folks tell us what to do, but we have an understanding and an insight of what we need to know. And so moving forward, I think by far this year, even dealing with COVID-19 and everything that's been going on, we still have to focus and move forward on the census. There should be no excuse. Each and every person should be counted. Each and every person should be counted, no matter what. Every grandmother, every father, every pawpaw, every niece, uncle, brother, cousin, Pookie, big mama, it don't matter. Y'all all should be counted.
Everybody needs to be counted.
Because you are going, your community will be affected by it in the positive or negative way.
Oh no.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. We lost you for a moment, but I can hear you now.
All right, but just make sure you get counted. That's if anything else I can tell you in general. How can you get counted?
And it's so easy. You can make it, it's
go to www.
Yes. Census2020.org.
Yes.
You can also you can call it or you can do it on your phone. I took my census on the phone.
My2020census.gov. Go right now. Actually, let's do it right now. Stop what you're doing right now.
Right, yeah.
If you have not filled out the census, fill out the census right now.
It takes less than 5 minutes.
I'm telling you, I did mine, my mom's. We covered all the household in the family. I made sure everybody got to fill out their census.
Because we need it now.
Yes.
More than ever.
There's a lot of, there's a lot of strategic things that are going on behind the scenes that are making sure in the aspects of people not, filling out the census. People are trying to make sure and manipulate in those particular ways of trying to make sure, on the political side. I'm telling you right now, you fill out your census, your voice will be heard. You fill out your census, there will be no excuse. You fill out your census, you will see those programs, you will see those particular dollars coming into your particular community itself. Understand this, when you fill out your census, a lot of people in the city of Lawton, in Southwest Oklahoma, city of Lawton is one of the hubs of Southwest Oklahoma, the largest city. And with that being said, we still need more jobs, more things within our particular community itself. When you fill out the census, it gives the census an enticement towards those particular companies in those particular industries that are willing to relocate, like Amazon and other places, and that may be willing to come to a city of Lawton or Tulsa or Oklahoma City. When you fill out your census, you're allowing your voice to be heard, and you're allowing them to say, hey, I'm here, count me in. Too many times and too much throughout our history, we have been uncounted. This is the time that we need to be counted.
And I just want to end it on that note that our voices matter. Go to my2020census.gov. And we're going to suit it over to our host, Jaysha.
Thank you so much. Hey, how are you?
I'm loving this. I love
So,
this panel. I'm so thankful for the opportunity for this. Thank you for reaching out to have me on this panel. I've loved it.
For sure. We couldn't do justice without y'all. So it really wasn't hard to do to seek you out. And I'm just glad you had the time and y'all were available. And yeah, so it's been really great having you. I'm really glad that you plugged my2020census.gov. For those of you who are viewing this online, clearly you have internet access. So do it.
do it.
If you are, if you're able
Do it.
able to safely share out your internet access to all your family, all the family that Jacoby basically called out all my family. Like, y'all need to be doing your census. Yes, we do. yes, right?
My sister for real.
I mean, seriously, it goes way back ancestral. So
Yes.
yeah, I just wanted to come back in real quick before we go back to Jabee for his final performance for the evening, leading us into celebration. It's been some really good conversation, some really good dialogue, a lot of wisdom that probably many of us, unfortunately, have not even heard. So I appreciate everyone who's tuned in, who's shared, who's commented. And I'm going to go ahead and provide the answers for those 3 questions that I asked. What does Juneteenth celebrate? It's the anniversary of when the last slaves were freed. Somebody mentioned in our panel that it happened in Texas, originated in Texas. In Galveston, Texas, I believe, was when the last slaves finally heard. The Emancipation Proclamation was, issued in 1863. So 2 years later, everybody finally got the word, which is unfortunate. But also why we need to celebrate Juneteenth. The first Juneteenth event occurred in which year? 1865. And then the year that the Muskogee Creek slaves were freed was 1866. So all of those questions have been answered, but I have one final question, bonus question. Have you completed your census?
We go to my2020census.gov.
Right on, right? Yes. And most of our communities have digital or internet access. You have also received mailers, postcards, or even the whole packet itself, which is prepaid postage. You can fill out the packet if you wish and just put it right in the mail. You don't even have to pay for the stamp. There are some homes who didn't get the packet in the mail, and you're actually having census workers do a drop off. They're not talking to you yet. I think in the next few weeks, because of COVID, they'll start visiting with people to make sure everyone is counted. But again, everyone, anybody born on or before April 1st of this year, 2020, you need to be counted. Whether you're related to them or not, and they live in your home, that means all of you and your roommates need to be counted. Your live-in loves, your hookups, your snags, count them if they are in your home. April 1st, 2020. Immigration status doesn't matter. You're in the U.S. and the 5 U.S. territories. You need to be counted. So much, much respect to you all in the work that you do with our org and outside of our org. All the things, I have a lot of respect and admiration for you both. I will then now kick it over. Thank you, Sammy Powell Jr.
I see you, Mr.
Right
Powell.
on.
All right, Mr. Sammy.
That's what's up. We need more. Jaysha, can I say one thing before you go to JB?
Yeah.
So one thing is that I signed up to be a numerator. So for Census 2020 in August, if you do not fill out your 2020census.org, I'm coming to your door. I'm coming to make sure that you get counted. So, if you don't want me coming knocking on your door looking for you, then go ahead and make sure you get counted. Because if not, then I'm coming. We come.
That is so true. I know so many people who absolutely hate answering the door, especially in this time when some of us are at home and you're not always ready at 9, 10, 2 o'clock p.m.
Like,
You know,
I nobody said they're coming over. You don't want to answer the door. You're like, wait, hold on, peeping out the window. Like, who is it? So yeah, so if you don't want to go through that, then please just go ahead and make it easier for the both of us. I mean, I don't mind because I'm a numerator anyway. But go ahead and do it. Thank you, Sammy.
right? Yes, come to your census and fill out your census. So,
Yes.
with that, JB, I know you've been graciously waiting on us to wrap it up. I think he's good to go.
Check, check, check. Can you hear me? All
For
right, let's
sure,
go.
we can.
Ready? Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We on our way. Yeah, yeah. We on our way. Yes. Yeah. We on our way. Yeah. Look. I woke up this morning, I'm feeling real good. So happy that I'm breathing. Man, I wish I could. I call my brother Judy. I see my homie D. Then put my shoes on with Nikes on my feet. A group I snapback and I am King T. Imagine every kingdom is 7 track to beat. So if you have to be, actually you mad at me. And that's it actually. You know what actually. With this girl named Raven Simone, but I don't know her, so I think I ought to leave her alone. You know what? I'm so stuck, I almost called up her wife, like, hook a brother up, what? With this feeling I get, I put the noodle on the groove and I let the party begin. And I walked out my house, I looked to the sky, and these words came out, Oklahoma, so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, look, beautiful kids to the most who grew up, beautiful is, everything beautiful does, a beautiful crib, bang with a beautiful blood, BL, OD, that's sober dose, too much for the sober folks, love makes me so close to destruction zone, too many wrong construction homes. So where they at? A beautiful patient in the middle of the bag. Facts look beautiful, don't it? Go cock in the boot jump on it. I tell her the crew jump on it. She find it, thick up on it. And then Africa, DOA my assassin rap. For the video my man is Jack. You don't need no set with a Patrick stand. Black in the back of the back of the act. You can make big fun for that. Beautiful days like these. Nicely. You take it from me. Saying God don't like ugly. God don't like ugly. He ain't from the beautiful E, the TV with the beautiful people. Looking at that TV like they ain't that beautiful either. Yeah. 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 Now I ain't nobody special. Nobody ever said I'm nobody's favorite, but there's nobody better. Nobody ever said it would be easy. Nobody helped me. Nobody believed me. My mom always said you can't depend on nobody. When you need help, ain't no friends, nobody. I'm from Oklahoma, they say nobody's here unless you hooping for the Thunder. Don't nobody care. If nobody applauds and nobody rewards, I won't be surprised because nobody was for us. I messed up a lot. It was nobody's fault but my own. I'm happy that nobody saw. I want respect, but I ain't nobody yet. Trying to make you understand what don't nobody get. I stay by myself, dying alone haunts me. I piss off girls, don't nobody want me. All they ever wanted was family and friends behind me.
Look over my shoulder, didn't see nobody. They killed my little brother and my best friend too. Now that's the kind of pain I put nobody through. I'ma walk into heaven like Enoch probably. Look inside my casket, won't see nobody. Look inside my casket, won't see nobody. Cause everything I saw I was just see. Yeah. DJ Reaper, y'all. DJ Reaper, y'all. Yeah, look. I sat and looked back on my life, reminiscing, premonition, feeling like everything moves so quick. I learned the hard way, friends and biz don't mix. I just sit and get ticked. If I had a second chance, everything I fix. And my homegirl sick, got cancer in her body and she fighting just to live. She said she loves Tupac, had me against the world on cassette in 95. I thought about what I was doing then. I had the same tape, but I was just a kid. Young black at age 7, wrote my first rap. Chris put me in the booth for my first track. We used to cherish every song, now we don't play them. We just send them to the blogs. Everybody rapping, trying to make it or make it, shake it. World star famous, an alright playlist. Perfection, Ashley outrageous. It ain't no play for y'all to play this. Cause where I'm from, they say Jabee is their favorite. Yeah. We come so far, got a long way to go when you trying to reach stars. We just trying to find a way, never giving up, take it day by day. We come so far, got a long way to go when you trying to reach stars. We just trying to find a way, never giving up, take it day by day. I'm just a fan that loves to spit, a little Gucci Mane mixed with Mr. Liv. I loved Hillary from Fresh Prince. Growing up, we ain't never had the best kicks. Mom said, be happy that your shoes fit, or let Michael Jordan buy your shoes fit. So I love where I'm from, East Side, where they taught me how to blood and cuss. That's why I always come back. I've been around the world, but I love where I'm at. South Central, reliving up them characters. OG Bobby Johnson, Willie Manchester. Potato on the barrel, never heard a sound, put the flavor to the metal. I'm sick of rappers rapping about nothing. A little decency, a little substance. We come so far, got a long way to go when you trying to reach stars. We just trying to find a way, never giving up, take it day by day. Yeah. Oh. I met a man who told me the other day, he told me, what I can do with love over again, cause I still don't love you back. Sometimes it's how you love you back. Oh, love you back. Don't love you back. Don't love you back. Trying to stay focused on tomorrow. Live within my means, paying portions on borrow. So I gave my whole life to it. Could have put a knife through it. Should have been the life moving. Had the passion as a kid. Rapping was the passion. Craft the magic with the pen. I guess my burden was the birds. Never burning, never learning. Learn the perfect till it's perfect. So Sometimes I wish I never heard finesse. A barcode flow and hit the studio with Chris. My mom understands. My daughter's too young, baby mama too dumb. Really just surviving. My head above the water, guess it's all just timing. And then it all seems nice till you lose everything and reevaluate your life. It's on. It's on. It's on. It's on. It's on. Look. Love all, trust a few. Put my heart in every word. So in everything I do, I lost friends over time. It's hard growing up with folks to leave them all behind. Yeah, never being home. My daughter's getting big. I feel I never see them grow. Now that's the sacrifice I made. I'm trying to tell a story. Hope the sacrifice repays. Because nobody ever told me. I learned from my own. Because nobody ever showed me. At home, they talk about I made it now. I feel boxed in, hoping that I make it out. I'm not from Harlem, I'm not from Compton. I'm from Oklahoma City, right? Trying to get it poppin'. Trying to please everybody, but I never do enough, and I'm never good enough. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Look, ever heard of me? Open heart surgery. Hardcore poetic is formed without burglary. I'm hard body, trained to fight the revolution. Cause I grew up on Spike Lee and Fox music. My dialogue from Shadows on the Sun. Rock, paper, scissors, bombs, blades, and guns. I never had hoop dreams, I was too short. Wanted to be like my pops with a box of Newports. He used to bump too short in his Cadillac. And now they call me too short with some swag to match. Half of that is just to get my passion back. I made a vow I never end up like these rapping cats. Super ugly fools, so where the fashion at? Sackcloth Fashion Expo, special delivery. My history is misery. Y'all watch Malcolm X and Ruby Bridges religiously. Oklahoma, respect us. I put that on my set, cuz blood, whatever you call it, ballin'. Like I'm Lil Troy just to make a little noise. To get deception and wrestle without confessions. I murdered the whole game using words as a weapon. Swift and Weston, blast and ask questions. Ugly. She said you ugly. All right, I'm gonna say super. Y'all say ugly. Let's try it. Super, 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 super. Look, this comparison, breathe deep, breathe easy. When opposites attack, rap competition like these bitches like it's 92 or 93. Nothing but a G, kerosene till I'm free. Magnified to the 10. I've been cool since I was 6. 8th grade, up the LP on tape. I'm super ugly in the face. Fulfilling with the lyrics, have I crafted. Old dirty bastard, Mamiya and Asada. Caprices and Impalas. I'm a rider, and you don't wanna. I pray my words spread past Oklahoma. Black man, black skin. Vampire smell with you so awful, homie. I'm so awesome. Tipping phone calls out the sunroof flossing. Super ugly, the eyes of the beholder. Holster over, I'm supposed to get closer. Closer, yeah, closer to the edge. But don't push me, I'm Mike Tyson in my head. Ugly. That's what she said. She said, you ugly. All right. Super. 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 Your mama is super ugly. Yeah. Thank y'all so much. My name is Jabee. This is my brother, my best friend, DJ Reaper right here. Make sure to fill out your census. It's very, very important.
Thank you again, JB, and remember to tip your DJ. It's been wonderful having you all here joining us. So I am going to announce our winners of our gift card giveaway. Again, that was for anybody who commented or who shared the event. So Henri Gibbons Johnson, Yolanda Jones Musa, and Pamela H. Smith. If you're still with us, message our Together Oklahoma Facebook page and give us your contact info. Either we can send a virtual gift card like through email, or we can physically mail you a gift card. So you can message us, private message us your address and or your email. Again, that was Enrica Givens Johnson, Yolanda Jones Musa, and Pamela H. Smith. And my apologies if I mispronounced any of your names. I'm sorry. I don't know if you can hear my little one. She snuck in. With that, I do want to go ahead and give our special guests a moment to express any final thoughts, if they have some plugs for upcoming events that they're participating in, if they have organizations that you could donate to for anybody who's able to. So if Jessica, our wizard behind the scenes, bring back Maria, Jacoby, and JB, if JB's still with us. Let's go with Jacoby. Would you go ahead and just offer some final thoughts or remarks?
Yeah. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Just final thoughts. First off, I want to thank you for having this particular event. I think it is one of a kind. Not a lot of organizations are doing this across the state and across the country, and dealing with the pandemic that we're in today. I think it is even more ideal and more creative towards this particular organization and yourself of coming up with this particular event itself and highlighting Juneteenth. So kudos to you. Just make sure everyone that you fill out the census understand that, when you are uncounted, your voice will not be heard. So make sure you be counted, specifically to Black and Brown individuals. Make sure that you fill out the census, because it's going to connect or affect you in a positive or negative way. So either or, make sure you fill out the census, and make sure that each and every person in your household, in your family, before you start, a conversation with a friend or anything like that, and you're on the phone or you see them in person, before you say hello, ask them, have you filled out the census? Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jacoby. Demaria, would you go ahead and offer any final remarks? Anything else? Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
Thank you so much. So if you want to stay connected, once again, my name is Demaria Monday, and I am the visionary builder for Block Builders. And what we are is we are a community-led, solution-based organization. At the moment, in response to COVID, we have been providing home-cooked meals on Wednesdays at Vernon AME to the community. at first it seemed like it would just be the homeless population, but in actuality, it's, for anybody who wants to come in for a home cooked meal. And so with that, but we also provide hygiene packets. We provide feminine hygienes for people who are experiencing homelessness. Because when you think about it, if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, then how can you worry about anything else? And so thank you for adding the link. So stay updated to see what we're doing, and also on ways to volunteer, and also if you want to donate, whether you donate some toothpaste, some socks, whatever you donate, even if it's some spaghetti noodles, we will appreciate it. Because the thing about it is everybody counts. And so it's making sure that everybody gets counted. And so I, thank you for having me here. And thank everybody for joining us, and make sure you get counted in 2020.
Thank you both for, just your time and your energy, your presence, all the good things that you all are, for being you. And Jabee unfortunately jumped off before he could share out that his upcoming event, he will be performing a Juneteenth block party this Saturday at 6 p.m. I believe that's in Oklahoma City, but you can find him on his Facebook page, Jabee, Jabe, or you can go to his website. But yeah, on his socials, so check that out. We did have the name of the book, somebody asked. It is called Wealthy Blacks Before the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, and that was by one of our panelists, Miss Kimberly Jones. Thank you, Jessica. And also, yes, Damaria's website for block builders. Excuse me, that's my baby. Can you turn that off, please? Because they can't see me. Anyway, real shiny. Block Builders was listed in the comments as well. Jabee, yeah, there we go. I just had some things to share out. For those of you who are still with us, we are doing these virtual events throughout the summer, maintaining our virtual presence in this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. We will have a June Pride Trivia on Tuesday, June 23rd at this Facebook page. You can also catch it on Twitter or YouTube at Together Oklahoma. We, shout out. Damaria made the shout out for DACA. Shout out to the Supreme Court of the United States for the DACA and the LGBTQ employee protection ruling. Very, very pivotal rulings by the Supreme Court. Happy Father's Day to all of you. And we also will be asking any of you who have commented and or joined us tonight for your feedback, anonymous feedback regarding these virtual census events. Jessica's going to pull it up, I believe. In addition to completing your census, it would help us to better reach all of you in the world, in our state, if you could go ahead and do the survey for us. Again, thank you so much to you, Damaria and Jacoby. Thank you to Jessica, to the team here at Together Oklahoma. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. It was so nice to meet y'all, and I will follow up. Thank you again to Jabee, our hip hop extraordinaire. Again, practice safety in this time. We'll see you next time.